As the founder and executive director of Athlete Ally, I have spent the last 5 years of my life working to end homophobia and transphobia in sports. In the last year, we've seen more athletes come out, more allies speak out, and more teams and leagues take a stand than at any other time in history. But despite this tremendous progress, the reality is that the institution of sport still isolates and excludes the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community. Every day I try to combat that reality. And the more I do, the more I've begun to realize that many of these anti-LGBT attitudes are the byproduct of sexism. I started wrestling when I was 6 years old. It has been and continues to be one of the most important things in my life. It taught me the importance of hard work, how to overcome adversity, the importance of teamwork. But for all of the good things that sport taught me, there were an equal number of things that I needed to unlearn. Sport is a competitive reward structure. From the moment you start sports, you are taught to measure yourself against your opponents and your peers. Trophy or no trophy, varsity or junior varsity. And so as an athlete, you're left asking yourself, what do I need to do to be successful, both athletically and socially? And because sport is one of the great socialization mechanisms, every aspect of its structure impacts an athlete's value system and self-esteem. So then let's not ignore the fact that sport is one of the few institutions that is segregated by sex. From the moment I started playing sports, it was boys over here, girls over there. Sport teaches boys how to become men and girls how to become women, and because of that gender divide, I was taught that what was good was masculine and what was bad was feminine. I was taught that the girls can't play with the boys and that the boys shouldn't want to play with the girls. This sex segregation teaches a false narrative of gender and sex binaries and of male superiority. And so you're left asking yourself, what do I need to do to get ahead? You learn to play up your advantages, to play up your masculinity. You learn to diminish a boy by calling him a girl or gay, and then in some twisted irony, you criticize female athletes for being too masculine. You use lesbian labels and stereotypes to diminish their efforts. This is all part of a larger system that privileges heterosexual, cisgendered male experiences, where homophobic and sexist insults are interchangeable. As I climbed the sports ladder, I saw more and more of my peers buying into these rigid gender norms. They started to wear this culture like a comfortable coat. And because today's athletes will be tomorrow's coaches and athletic directors and business leaders, this system of homophobia and transphobia and sexism is cyclical and intergenerational and permeates throughout every sector of society. According to FIFA, there are about 265 million soccer players around the world. The global fan base of soccer is estimated at some 3.5 billion people. That is nearly half of the world's population. Sport speaks every language. It cuts across cultures and communities in a way that little else does. And so, with a scope that large, cannot be overstated. But neither can the impact of the inequality within it. After the landmark passage of Title IX, there was a 600% increase of women competing in college sports here in the United States. But there's also been a 200% decrease of women coaching women's sports. And to this day, there's still less than 2% of female coaches coaching men's teams. When you have a sports structure that privileges male athleticism over female athleticism, and when many hiring decisions are based on past athletic accomplishments, it's no wonder that female coaches have twice the competition for half the number of jobs, because they are not being considered for coaching men's teams in the same way that male coaches are being considered for coaching women's teams. This bias is carried over into how the media covers men's and women's sports. In 2014, SportsCenter allotted only 2% of its coverage to women athletics. Time and time again, we see sports commentators call women girls when they would never, ever call men boys. This language is yet another example of how female athleticism is trivialized. What doing this work has taught me is that the Sex segregation in sports teaches sexism. And sexism is a fundamental building block of homophobia and transphobia. If we want to end these issues, we need to start investing in more mixed-gendered sporting opportunities. There is no reason why we can't have college and Olympic athletes competing together in mixed-gendered relays. Why we can't award team medals based off the total accomplishments of the men and women competing. Why we can't have mixed-gendered sports throughout youth sports. Or why we can't create new teams and new leagues of elite male and female athletes competing together. Yes, we have to be mindful of competitive advantages in contact and team sports. And no, we do not want mixed-gendered sports to limit the opportunities for women and girls in sports. But every time a young boy gets struck out by a girl, "You throw like a girl" ceases to mean insult. He will learn that femininity is a form of strength. Gloria Steinem once said, "We've begun to raise our daughters more like sons, but few have had the courage to raise our sons more like our daughters." That courage is long overdue, but it is well within our control. If we want to live in a world where women and girls and the LGBT community have equal access, opportunity, and experience, then I believe it starts by rethinking the sex segregation in sports. Thank you.